Have you ever wondered what is happening inside someone who suddenly becomes distant after sharing a powerful connection with you? Maybe they stopped reaching out. Maybe the conversations became shorter. Maybe they disappeared without giving you the explanation you deserved. And now you're left wondering whether they forgot you, moved on, or simply stopped caring. But what if the silence you're experiencing isn't the entire story? What if someone can walk away physically while still carrying the emotional impact of what happened between you? The original message explores the idea that distance can sometimes function as emotional self-protection, especially when a connection brings feelings someone isn't prepared to confront. Today, we're going deeper into that idea, but in a way that puts the focus back where it belongs. Asterisk on you. Because when someone pulls away, the first thing many people question is their own worth. Was I not enough? Did they find someone better? Did I imagine everything? Why could they let me go so easily? And those questions can slowly turn heartbreak into self-doubt. But someone else's inability to communicate, commit, or handle emotional closeness is not a measurement of your value. Sometimes people retreat when a relationship requires them to become emotionally honest. They may have enjoyed the connection when everything felt easy, but when the relationship started touching deeper parts of themselves, fear, insecurity, vulnerability, past wounds, suddenly felt exposed. And instead of moving closer, they moved backward. Not necessarily because the connection meant nothing, but because facing what it meant required courage. Think about what happens when someone has spent years building emotional walls. They learn how to stay independent. They learn how not to need anyone. They learn how to walk away before they can be abandoned. Then someone enters their life who sees through all of that. Someone who notices the things they don't say. Someone who listens beyond their words. Someone who makes them feel understood. At first, that can feel beautiful, but eventually it can feel frightening, because being truly seen means there is nowhere left to hide, and that's where the push and pull begins. They come closer. Then they disappear. They open up. Then they become guarded. They make you feel important. Then they act as though nothing happened. This contradiction can leave you emotionally exhausted. You start analyzing every message, every silence, every social media activity, every memory, every moment you shared. And without realizing it, your entire emotional world begins revolving around someone else's behavior. That's where you have to stop. Because whether they miss you or not, whether they regret leaving or not, whether they eventually return or not, asterisk, you cannot put your life on pause waiting for someone to figure themselves out. The source describes the absence of the other person as an emotional void and emphasizes how distance can reveal the impact of someone's presence. But here's the healthier interpretation. You don't need their loneliness to prove that you mattered. You don't need their regret to validate your love. You don't need them to come back before you can finally believe that the connection was meaningful. Your experience was real because you lived it. And your value existed before they entered your life. It will continue to exist whether they stay or leave. Now imagine what happens when you stop chasing. Not as a manipulation, not to make them jealous, not because you want them to panic, but because you finally decide that your peace matters. You stop checking your phone every few minutes. You stop trying to decode their silence. You stop asking mutual friends what they're doing. You stop creating imaginary conversations in your head. And slowly, something changes. Your attention returns to you. The energy you were spending trying to understand them becomes energy you can use to rebuild yourself. You begin sleeping better, thinking more clearly, laughing again, making plans. And one day you realize something extraordinary. You don't need an answer as desperately as you once did. That is healing, not forgetting, not pretending you never cared, but becoming strong enough to care without abandoning yourself. And this is where the original message makes an important shift. The boundary created by your absence can become an act of self-respect rather than a punishment. That's a powerful distinction. You are not withdrawing to control another person. You're stepping back because you refuse to beg for basic emotional clarity. You refuse to survive on breadcrumbs. You refuse to measure your worth by how quickly someone responds to you. You refuse to keep knocking on a door that someone isn't ready to open. And if they eventually return, you don't immediately return to the old version of yourself. You observe, you listen, you watch their actions, because words can be emotional, promises can be beautiful, regret can be genuine. But change is demonstrated through consistency. If someone comes back saying they miss you, ask yourself, what has actually changed? Are they communicating differently? Are they taking responsibility? Are they showing emotional maturity? Are they willing to build something rather than simply revive something? Because missing you and being ready for you are two completely different things, and someone can miss and still be incapable of giving you a healthy relationship. Someone can regret losing you and still repeat the same behavior. Someone can have powerful feelings and still not possess the emotional capacity to handle them. And that is why your focus should never be simply on whether they return. Your focus should be on whether the relationship they return to is capable of becoming healthier. The original script describes a period in which emotional pressure supposedly reaches a tipping point and suggests that the person may begin checking social media, revisiting old messages, or quietly looking for signs of connection. But don't build your healing around a prediction. Don't sit around waiting for a specific number of days. Don't count down to a supposed message. Don't turn every notification into a sign. Instead, let time reveal the truth naturally. If they want to contact you, they know how. If they want to apologize, they can. If they want another chance, they can communicate that clearly. And if they don't, that answer may hurt, but it also gives you freedom. Because uncertainty keeps you emotionally attached to possibilities. Clarity allows you to move. Sometimes the most painful part of heartbreak isn't losing the person, it's losing the future you imagined with them. You aren't only grieving conversations, you're grieving possibilities, the trips you imagined, the mornings you imagined, the relationship you thought might eventually become real, the version of them you believed they could become. And sometimes, healing requires accepting that potential is not the same as reality. You cannot build a relationship with someone's potential. You can only build with the person standing in front of you. So if they are distant, let them be distant. If they are confused, let them work through their confusion. If they are afraid, let them face their fear. You don't have to become their therapist, rescuer, or emotional translator. Love should not require you to disappear inside someone else's uncertainty. And here's something beautiful to remember. The moment you stop needing someone else's validation, you become free. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about yourself equally. You can still love someone and choose distance. You can still miss someone and refuse to chase them. You can still hope they heal while accepting that their healing is not your responsibility. And you can still believe that your story isn't finished without believing that one specific person has to be the ending. Maybe they return. Maybe they don't. Maybe the connection transforms into something healthier. Maybe it becomes a lesson that changes your future relationships. Maybe someone new eventually enters your life and gives you the consistency you once begged another person to provide. You don't know yet, and that's okay. Your future does not need to be completely visible for you to walk toward it. So tonight, if you're tempted to check your phone again, pause, take a breath, put the phone down, and remind yourself, I don't need to chase what is meant to meet me halfway. I don't need to convince someone to recognize my value. I don't need to compete for someone's attention. I don't need to become smaller so someone else feels comfortable. And I don't need to wait forever for someone to become ready. What happened between you and this person may have changed them. It may have changed you. But don't measure the importance of a connection by whether it survives. Some connections teach us, some awaken us, some expose wounds we didn't know existed, and some show us exactly what we will never again accept. Perhaps that's what this chapter was meant to give you. Not another reason to wait, but a reason to rise. So if they are thinking about you, let them think. If they're remembering you, let them remember. If they regret their choices, let them sit with that realization. You don't need to interrupt their process. Your responsibility is to protect yours. Keep moving, keep growing, keep becoming the person you were meant to be before this heartbreak temporarily convinced you that your life depended on someone else's decision. Because your story is bigger than their silence. Your worth is bigger than their absence. And your future is bigger than this one unanswered question. Maybe one day they'll understand exactly what they lost. Maybe they'll find the courage to return. But if they do, let them meet a version of you who no longer accepts confusion as love. And if they never return, let them become part of your past without becoming the reason you stop believing in your future. The greatest shift isn't when they finally come back. The greatest shift is when you realize, * you came back to yourself. And that is the moment everything begins to change.